today we're going to talk about a new shoe. It's been getting a bunch of hype. It's from a brand that's recently entered the skateboard space that I've honestly been curious about trying up until now. Without further ado, this is going to be my review of the Asics Leggerezza FB. So, I'm actually fresh off of my skate session with these, and before I get into the review, I want to thank somebody. I want to thank Kingswell in Los Feliz. They're the shop that I've been riding for years now. They really helped me out, me and my brand Collage Skateboards, and I was able to go in and trade a pair of the shoes that I skate for these. So I just want to thank Kingswell, I want to thank DJ, I want to thank Melcher, and I want to thank Ronnie and say happy birthday to Ronnie. If you're in the LA area, please go to Kingswell. It's almost impossible to state effectively how much they've done for the skate scene here in LA. Before them, we didn't really have like a skate shop that was really dug in LA and like doing things with brands and things like that. There was LA Skate, and Dave and LA Skate were amazing, especially to me. If you know about LA Skate and what it was in the heyday. Dave doesn't really own it anymore. It's now owned by his son and daughter-in-law, and so it's very different from how it used to be. So I don't get over there much, but Kingswell is where it's at if you're in LA, and they do the most for skateboarding in LA. So shout out to them. Now let's talk about this shoe. I was very curious to try this out, and those of you with a keen eye will know that this shoe resembles another shoe that I reviewed recently, and that's the Louis Lopez 2 from Cons. So these have that Samba soccer shoe DNA. They have a similar profile. One thing that I'll say about this shoe that I think is kind of a miss is that from what I've seen, they only offer it in this leather. I chose the white leather just because I don't have white shoes as often, and I thought it would be cool. But the only other option I saw was like navy leather, and it looks really cool. But as we'll talk about later, leather, and especially the type of leather they tend to use on skate shoes, it's just an inferior material for skateboarding shoes, you know what I mean? There was the Remy Tav Converse shoe that I made a short part skating, and they used a higher quality leather on that, like a rub-off leather, and that, it actually gave you more grip on the board than what this gives you. But that was an expensive shoe, and also that leather tore up much faster than something like this will. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fit of this shoe. And before I do that, let me just pull out the Louis Lopez 2. So you guys know that when I reviewed the Louis Lopez 2, I actually reviewed the suede version. And I chose that suede version because, in my opinion, there's no better material for skating than suede. Suede feels the best, it grips the best, and it tends to last not as long as rubber, obviously, but rubber has its own issues. When you have a shoe that's covered in rubber, for me at least, kickflips are pretty much off the table in the beginning. Like, I love skating the CTAS from Cons, but when I first get the ones with the toe cap, it takes me a couple sessions before I can kickflip to my full potential. And so I kind of abstain from skating those when I'm in a more kickflip heavy mode of skating. So suede is where it's at. Now, I wasn't able to pick the suede version of this shoe, but I want you to look closely at these two. I'll get the left shoe and the right shoe, have them side by side, and they're very similar. Now, that's not to say that one company copied another, because Asics comes from that Onitsuka Tiger lineage as well as the original Nikes, I believe. And Asics has always made shoes that look like this. And this Cons shoe, like I said in the review of it, I got to go to like the release party here in LA, and they showed all of the Converse shoes from the 60s that this was actually modeled after. So, you know, I think most of us are used to seeing Adidas Sambas and having those be, I mean, I won't say dominant, because that style of shoe doesn't really has never really in modern years dominated popular culture. Like, I do remember that being a really popular shoe in the late 90s and early 2000s in like the pop punk scene and I guess what you would call the nu metal scene. But as far as mainstream culture, this isn't really a shoe last that was ever dominant until very recent years when like Sambas and Gazelles and all of those Adidas started to gain favor. And what's I forget the other one, but I'm sure you guys know which one I'm talking about. Every single person was wearing them. But yeah, very similar style. This Sambas and this Leggerezza. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, oh well. One thing that I will give to the Leggerezza off the rip is this tongue, right? So this is a puffier tongue, but it's not a ridiculously puffy tongue. So recently there's been a resurgence in the shoes that were popular in like 97, 98. And those were the old Vans with where they had the slim profile, but they had an extremely puffy tongue. And I've never really been too much of a fan of those shoes for skating because when you skate in a shoe with that puffy of a tongue, I like to skate my shoes pretty snug on my feet. And in order to get that extremely puffy tongue shoe snug on your foot, it feels too much, like you're choked down, and it feels like it's limiting your ankle mobility down there. But this is the perfect point between that super puffy and this almost non-existent tongue that they went with in the Converse. Now, I didn't run into any issues in the Louis, but that's only because I didn't have my board chop me on the top of the foot. If it's between these two, and I believe how the Adidas Samba is, where it's thin like this, and I'm gonna have to pick, I would definitely pick this because this offers me some protection on the top of my foot, but it's not so puffy that in order for me to get the shoe as tight as I like, it's going to cut off my circulation, so it's awesome. Another thing I like about this shoe is if you look at how much space there is before you get up to the laces. And that just means that you're not going to rip your laces quickly. And ripped laces are a huge thing in skating. When I remember to, I glue 1, 2, and 3 laces up before I start skating. But a lot of times, I'm not thinking that in depth when I set up my shoes. Like, I'm going for a skate session, I'm trying to grab my camera, I'm trying to coordinate with the filmer, and I'm not really thinking about gluing my shoe, so I don't do it. So it's really nice when you have a shoe like this where the laces are higher up and you don't have to worry about ripping them. I really wish that brands would go back to how it was in the 90s and the early aughts and even the mid-aughts when most skate shoes started to have an alternate lacing system. So they would have eyelets, and then inside of here they would have loops. So you could lace your shoes in there, and you would never have to worry about ripping your shoe. Companies started to get away from that in like the early 2010s or the late aughts. And I wish it's something they would get back to because it's really a type of technology that makes so much sense for skate shoes, and it just makes absolutely no functional sense that people got rid of that. But I think it's a cost-saving measure because I bet punching this hole only is more cost-effective than punching this hole and putting in those loops. Another place where this shoe excels, in my opinion, is the fit. So when I reviewed these Louis, right, I said that they were true to size. That I wear a size 12, and I felt like these were true to size. And actually skating this Leggerezza FB today, it's actually made me reassess the Louis because this fits better, I feel like. This gives me just a little bit more space, and this is a size 12, and I felt more comfortable in this one. Actually, this one actually feels a little bit tight. When I got home, I threw this one on just to be sure, and yes, this Louis feels slightly tight. So when I ask for more shoes from Cons, I might actually ask for a 12.5 in this, whereas if I were going to skate this again, I would definitely stick with the 12. So they are true to size, and that's even for me who has a bit wider of a foot. Do with that what you will. Now let's talk about the insole in this shoe. It is a glued in, very thin insole. You can rip it out, right? But you would actually have to rip it. And I could definitely feel when I was skating how thin the insole was compared to in the Louis, where the outsole is just about the same thickness on both of these. But the Cons actually comes with the stock Cons insole, which this is diminutive when compared to something else that I reviewed, the Current Caples Pro from Vans that recently I reviewed. And I actually have that Current Caples insole still. I don't like to skate with that insole because compared to this Remind insole, which is the preferred insole that I skate, while the Current Caples insole is thicker and it is more, it gives you a little more bounce, it doesn't have this slightly hardened piece around the bottom of it, and this pattern at the bottom of this, so the pattern coupled with the slightly harder material on the bottom means that if I primo, like actually I've been working on a laser flip tutorial, and I have like a bit of a knee injury that I've been dealing with right now. I have to wear this crazy brace to skate. So yesterday I was shooting laser flips and I forgot to put these in my shoe because when I went to the skate park I wasn't expecting to skate, and I kept that Current Caples insole in and I primoed and it hurt so badly. I caught this area right here, and it just hurt so badly, whereas that's happened in these quite a few times, and of course I feel it. There's no possible way that if you're fully committed to a trick and you land on your board sideways with the bone on your foot with all of your weight on top of it, you're not going to feel it. But in these, I feel it measurably less. And towards the end of my session, because of how thin this sole is, also paired with just the lack of an insole, like I'm just gonna rip it out just for the sake of the video. This really is a diminutive piece of insole. That's really all you get right there. And I think that the shoe would do better. Like if I were going to continue to skate in this shoe, I would definitely rip that out completely and just use my Remind insole. So I think that this shoe suffers in that respect as far as like impact. But I also don't think that the person who's going to skate in this shoe is going to be the type of person who's like stair counting anyway. Because there are tons of other shoes, and Asics even has other shoes that I would look at before this one for impact. So for all my impact people, this is not going to be the shoe for you. Who is this shoe going to be for? Now, I did a lot of flat ground skating because, in my opinion, flat ground for the street skater, that's really the tell of how good a shoe is. And I did 15 kickflips in a row in this shoe. From the first kickflip, I didn't miss a kickflip. I did 15. I actually stopped doing kickflips, and I'm gonna play it while I'm talking. And I'm with the kickflips, I'm gonna fast forward through the movement in between, but I'm not gonna make any cuts. And my boy Mike was right there, and I had him testify that yes, I did 15 in a row in this, and that's really, really good for a shoe. Also, I was skating a brand new deck, and typically brand new shoes, brand new deck, you struggle with kickflips. I didn't struggle in this. I did definitely feel that when I was doing the kickflips, after like 3 or 4 of them, these started to slide on the board a little faster than, let's say, my suede Cetus or my One Star Pro. But it didn't hinder my kickflip. So that was 15 kickflips in a row, and that's the toe. Pretty good. Landed the first kickflip of the day. Mike's seen it.
That shit was crazy.
Michael vouch.
15 in a row.
And then when I went on to do the ledge skating, I did kickflip crook on that marble ledge first try, kickflip back tail on that marble ledge first try. So this is a kickflip shoe. And if you're the type of person who does a lot of ledge skating, I'd say that's who this shoe is going to be for. Ledges, bank to ledges, flat ground type skaters, like people who skate flat bars and like the big ledges like I skated. You'll see me skate the big ledge at the park in this. Didn't have any problems with it. That's who this shoe is for. I think this is the type of shoe for people who like to control the board and who want a little bit more impact protection than what a vulcanized shoe is going to offer, but doesn't want like the big chunky cup sole. This is the happy medium shoe. This is like what the SXL, the original XL, was to us when I was coming up skating. Because the funny thing is, to modern skaters, the OG XL is thick. That's why they have the XL Slims, which I feel like are a happy medium, but to me they look really funky. This is like that range right there. So that's who I think the shoe is for. Now, the downside of this outsole is it's kind of slippery. Like when I did the tray flips, I think my second tray flip, like I did one, I landed on it, and my feet slipped on the board after I landed the tray flip. And now with the Louis outsole, this thing is extremely grippy. Now, I have the privilege of getting grip tape for free. So I'm skating the same grip tape with this shoe and this shoe. And I will tell you that this Cons shoe gripped a lot better than this Asics shoe. And even when I'm holding them and I'm pressing on the shoes, you could definitely feel that this one is a bit harder on the bottom and this one is a bit spongier. Kind of like it actually feels like the Chuck Taylor outsole. Now I had someone in the comments of one of my videos, and I don't know why you guys do this. Some brave, misinformed soul tried to tell me that it's the grip tape only that matters with how grippy the shoe is, not the shoe. I want to tell you guys to go and join my Patreon. We have more discussions like this over there. I speak freely about all sorts of things. I do Q&As with everybody. We did 4 of them in August. I'm going to do 4 of them in September, hopefully, as well. And also, people who subscribe at a certain tier get to send me their videos and I'll critique them. A lot of people learning tricks that way. If you're one of the Patreon people, you're watching this, go ahead and leave a comment and talk about what we've gone over and what you've learned. Don't take it from me, take it from them. Consider joining. Also, my brand Collage Skateboards, we just dropped 2 new board graphics, Fortune and Spades. Go subscribe to the Collage YouTube channel. And there's a short video I just put out of Paul Rutkowski, Peter Ellis, and myself skating one of those new graphics in Seattle. You can pick up those decks on www.collageskateboards.com. You should support that way. You can also buy me a coffee. You can do all the things. And you can check out boardcontrolacademy.com. That's where you can find out about booking individual lessons with me in person or over video if you don't want to subscribe on YouTube or on Patreon or something like that. From the person who tried to tell me that it's only the grip tape that matters with your shoes. Now look, I've skated for 27 years. I've skated at pretty much like the highest level you could get to for when I was skating. I'm still skating at a very high level. And I'll tell you, it's not only your grip tape that matters. Every shoe grips on the same grip tape differently because your grip is the interaction between this material and that other material, which is your grip tape. Really something simple that you should understand. I'm hoping the person who left this comment wasn't older than like 13 because it's kind of scary if that's how poor your critical thinking skills are. But I digress. This shoe is a pretty slippery shoe, and I will try, if it's not too tedious, to go and find the squeaking sounds. And usually when a shoe squeaks on your grip tape, that's usually a tell that it's going to be a pretty squeaky shoe. Like, there aren't too many of the Cons shoes that squeak. Vans I never get squeaking from. The shoes that I've got the most squeaking out of are Nikes, and if you know, I reviewed the PS8 on this channel. I liked the shoe, but it was way too slippery. Almost like when I was skating that stage at the courthouse, felt like I was skating on ice. I never reached the point where I like forgot which shoe I was skating. This isn't as slippery as that. Like, I did reach that point, and I had a really good session. Like, for me to do a kickflip back tail and a kickflip crook on that ledge first try, that felt really good because I haven't done those tricks in almost 3 weeks because of the knee issue I've been dealing with. So my knee started like kind of popped and I got a sharp pain when I was shooting that Linwood skate park video. And I took a few days off and then I went and rolled around. It didn't feel good. I took another week off, and I've only done like little tiny short bursts of Flatground, kind of trying to film the laser flip video. And today was the first like skate session that I had. I'm wearing this crazy brace. Like you can kind of see it through my jeans here. It's an old, yeah, it's got a hinge and all that stuff. So for me to get a good session in these shoes after not skating and having pain and limited mobility in my right knee says really good things about this shoe. I would say this, like, they're pretty durable. Like, this is after the session. This is what they look like. This is the switch shoe. They're pretty durable. For durability, I'd probably give them like maybe a 6.5 because they have already started to peel from one skate session. And it wasn't a particularly long session. Like, it wasn't the entirety of what I would have as far as skate sessions go if I were completely healthy. But it was a decent skate session, and it held up pretty well. But I think for you guys that are like trying to get the best value for your money, like I think this shoe costs over $100. I think it might be like $120. And I do think that, like, for instance, if we're gonna talk about Converse, I think these are $85 or something like that. And I think because of, like, these have exposed stitching, but it's like a very thick layer of this. I think this will be slightly more durable just because on this you only have the one layer and it's a pretty thin layer. And I'd say that, like, all the other cons that I skate and like the Vans that I've skated, they're gonna be more durable than this. They're a bit thicker, they feel a bit sturdier, and they're also gonna be a bit cheaper. So when I review these shoes, taking everything into consideration, so if we just go through everything, like we talked about durability, like durability, I'd probably give it a 6.5 or a 7 maybe. 6.5. As far as fit, they fit true to size, so I give them a 10 out of 10 for fit. As far as comfort, they are a comfortable shoe. I wasn't standing or skating in them for an extremely long time. Like, I showed up at the skate park, I took the shots that you'll see. I did a skate lesson for an hour skating around with the kid, and then I had my own skate session for about an hour. So that's not too long in the shoe. And I did feel a little bit of foot fatigue by the end of that. So as far as comfort, I'd probably give them a 7. And then as far as like flick, for flick, I'm going to give them a 9. And if they were suede, it would be a 10, right? Because suede is the best. This material here, it's just never going to grip as well as, grip and flick on the top. I'm talking about on the top of the shoe. We'll get to the bottom of the shoe next. This type of material is never going to be as good as suede. So maybe I guess I have to give it an 8, because 10 is reserved for like the best suede flick. 9 is your average suede. So yeah, this would have to be about an 8, because you do get good flick out of this, but it does have a little bit of slip on it due to the fact that they use this particle leather. And then we'll talk about grip, right? So as far as the grip goes, I'm gonna have to give it like a 7, because it is grippier than like a Dunk or the PS8 Nike that I tried, but it's not as grippy as even this Louis shoe. So those are the scores that I would give the shoe. So overall, I think it is a good shoe. I can't recommend it to like younger skaters, because when I'm recommending shoes to younger skaters, I think protection and like is important, and I also think that like longevity is important. And this doesn't strike me as a shoe that's gonna last very long. But if you're an adult and you know what you like to skate and you like to go for these thinner shoes, and you have the budget where $120 or over $100, I'm pretty sure it is, isn't gonna break the bank for you, I'd say go for it. If you're a kick flipper, anything like that, I'd say go for it. If you're like a transition skater or something like this, I don't think this would be the shoe for you. I only did like basic rock to fakies and stuff, and I didn't even film any, but it didn't feel like when I skate transition, it's like when I'm gonna kick flip a big set of stairs or kickflip up something. I want the grippiest shoe possible, and this is not that. But it is a good shoe. It is a nice looking shoe. It looks really nice. I wish I didn't skate them as hard as I would. If that was the case, I would keep these and just walk around in them for a bit. I'm not going to call it a great shoe. This is a good shoe. And yeah, if you have the budget and it fits your style, I think go for it. If not, I think there's definitely some other options that you could go for that are going to last a bit longer. And for the price, like, these are more expensive than the Kyle Walker and the Rowan Vans shoe. And those are also cup sole, but they're like slightly thinner cup soles. They're a little bit thicker than this. They use that great Vans insole, and they use thicker and like more like uppers that have more tech, and they grip better. So this shoe being $120 means it's in the price range of that shoe. And so it's hard for me to recommend such a bare bones shoe that doesn't have the best grip and isn't going to be that durable up against those Vans. And then also like the new Nyjah shoe, which has a lot more tech, that's in this price range. So that's where it gets hard for me to recommend it. But I did have fun skating it, and I don't think it's a bad shoe at all. But just my criteria is leaning more towards younger skaters, where your parents are buying you shoes and things like that. If you're an adult and this shoe fits your style, because it is a stylish shoe and all that, just pick it up. Pick it up. If you like the way that it looks, if a slightly less grippy shoe doesn't bother you, go for it. Look out for my laser flip video. That'll come out after this. And then I also have my kind of think piece video on like pinch and just kind of how skate information flows. That's going to be coming soon too. Thanks to all the supporters. Check out the Patreon. Check out collagesskateboards.com. Pick up one of my pro model decks or one of our new graphics that just came out. Subscribe to the Collage YouTube channel. Watch my video part. Watch the other writers' video parts. Watch the short piece that just came out of us skating the new deck. And hit boardcontrolacademy.com. Book a lesson with